Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really bold idea, and a pretty controversial one that claims it can solve one of the biggest problems we face: the fact that there just aren't enough good jobs to go around. It's called economic democracy, and it pretty much challenges everything we take for granted about work and money. So, let's kick things off with a number that's almost impossible to wrap your head around: 1.2 billion. That's how many people are unemployed around the world, according to our source material. I mean, just let that sink in. It is a massive, staggering waste of human talent and potential. All those skills, all that productivity, just gone every single day. All right, so how in the world does this concept, economic democracy, plan to fix a problem that huge? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. We'll start with why we have this job shortage in the first place, then we'll get into the main idea, a right to a job, and this really wild two-currency solution that's supposed to make it all work. We'll see how that creates a self-powering economic loop, and finally, what the big picture vision is for a society where basic needs actually come first. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. To really understand the proposed solution, we have to get our heads around the problem. And according to the theory, there's a fundamental conflict that's literally built into the DNA of our current economy that makes a shortage of jobs pretty much inevitable. So check this out. It's a tension we all feel, but maybe don't put into words. On one side, you've got businesses. Their main goal is profit, right? Which means they're always trying to cut costs. And the biggest cost for most companies? It's labor. So there's this built-in pressure to hire as few people as you can get away with and pay them as little as possible. But that goes directly against what you and I and everyone else needs: a steady, decent-paying job so we can, live. And this clash isn't just a theory. It creates a real permanent shortage of jobs. The numbers are just wild. Basically, for every 3 people on this planet who could be working, 1 isn't. All their potential, their ideas, what they could be contributing, it just evaporates. And, this kind of explains why the usual fixes just don't seem to work. Governments try to juice the economy by taking on debt or printing money. But that often just leads to inflation, and it doesn't do a thing to change that core conflict we just talked about. It's kind of like trying to fix a leaky pipe by just shoving more and more water into it. You're not fixing the leak. So, if the current system has this deep, fundamental flaw, what's the alternative? Well, this brings us right to the heart of the whole idea: economic democracy. The central idea here is to completely flip the script on how we think about jobs. I mean, just imagine a world where having a good, stable job isn't some prize you have to fight for your whole life, but a basic right you have as a citizen, something the government has to make sure is available to anyone who wants one. That's the huge shift in thinking behind economic democracy. And to really get it, think about political democracy. Think about voting. The government doesn't just say, hey, you have the right to vote. Good luck finding a ballot box somewhere. No way. They actively build the whole system: the polling places, the election workers, the registration process, all of it, to make sure your right to vote is real. It's a guarantee, not a suggestion. Economic democracy takes that exact same logic and just applies it to jobs. The government's role would be to build the infrastructure for employment, things like new worker-owned businesses called cooperatives that are specifically created to give good jobs to everyone who needs one. You're guaranteeing the right to a job, not just the right to look for one. Okay, I know what you're thinking right now. This sounds huge, maybe even impossible. How in the world could a government afford to guarantee a job for every single person? And that brings us to the most critical and honestly the most creative part of this entire idea: how it's all funded. I mean, that's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? If you're going to create millions of jobs out of thin air, where does the money come from? How do you do it without creating insane levels of debt or sparking hyperinflation? Well, the answer this theory proposes is a total break from anything we know. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The source material calls it the secret sauce of the whole system: a totally new, digital-only currency. And this money has one very, very special property that changes the whole game. This is where the two-currency system kicks in. Now, the money we use today, dollars, euros, whatever, it doesn't go away. It just gets a new name: luxury currency. You'd still use it for savings, investments, buying a new car, that kind of stuff. But alongside it, the government creates a new jobs currency to pay all those new workers. And here's the twist: it expires. You have to spend it within 30 days.
and you can only spend it on essential things like food and housing. That little detail is the key to the whole thing.
Now, this whole expiring money thing, it's not just a weird gimmick. It's actually the engine that powers a brand new economic cycle. It's designed to create this powerful, stable loop where money is always moving, which is what creates and keeps the jobs going. So let's just follow the money for a second. Step 1, the government funds these new cooperatives to hire everyone who needs work. Step 2, those workers start producing things we all need: food, medicine, housing. Step 3, they get paid in that new job's currency. And now, step 4, and this is the kicker, they have to spend it all within the month. And what do they buy? Exactly, the very stuff they and their coworkers just made. That creates a constant, guaranteed demand, which keeps the businesses running and the jobs secure. It's a perfect, self-sustaining loop. So that rule that you have to spend the money, that's the magic P. It stops people from hoarding cash, and it makes sure that the value created by labor flows right back into the real economy. It basically guarantees that what's being produced is also being consumed, which is the recipe for a super stable economy. So what's the end game here? Why go through all this trouble to completely re-engineer how the economy works? Well, it all comes down to a really fundamental shift in priorities about what an economy should even be for. It really all boils down to this one core idea from the source material: ensuring that everybody's basic needs, we're talking food, shelter, healthcare, are met first, before the economy starts catering to the luxury wants of individuals. It's about putting the well-being of the whole community at the top of the list. So what you end up with is this very intentional two-track economy. The system is designed to make sure that the industries that provide our universal needs are always strong and stable. The desire economy, luxury goods, entertainment, all that, it's still there, but it's no longer the only thing driving the bus. It's the secondary engine, not the main one. And the potential payoff here, as laid out in the source material, well, it's huge. Just think about it. A society with universal healthcare and education, where nobody has to worry about losing their job. And as technology makes us more productive, we could all work less, maybe retire earlier. It's a vision where technology finally starts serving all of us, not just the bottom line. Of course, a system this different would need some rules to keep it fair and stable. The source talks about things like price controls on essential items, so a loaf of bread would always have a fair price. You'd also have limits on how much of that special jobs currency any one person could earn, just to keep things from getting out of whack and to ensure a fair shot for everyone. So what we've looked at here is a blueprint for a radically different future. It's a whole new way of thinking about what our economy is for. And it leaves us with a really powerful question, one I'll just leave with you. Could an economy built from the ground up to serve human needs, instead of just profit, actually create a more balanced and prosperous world for all of us? And what would we be willing to change to find out?